Imagine starting your morning with something so simple that most people would completely overlook it. Not a supplement, not a trendy superfood, not something expensive or hard to find, just a handful of nuts. But not dry, soaked. At first, it might sound unnecessary, maybe even a little strange. After all, nuts are already considered healthy, right? So why would something as simple as soaking them overnight make any real difference? That's where things begin to shift. Because sometimes, it's not about what you eat. It's about how your body is able to use it. And this small step, something that takes almost no effort, can quietly change how your body responds to what you're eating every single day. Not in a dramatic, instant way, but in a slow, consistent way that builds over time. You might not notice it on the first day, or even the second, but after a few mornings, something starts to feel different. Your digestion feels lighter. Your stomach doesn't feel as heavy after eating. Your energy feels a little more stable, not spiking, not crashing, just steady. And you can't quite explain why. That's how small habits work. They don't demand attention. They don't feel extreme. They simply support your body in the background. But here's the problem. Most people either eat nuts randomly without thinking, or avoid them altogether because they believe they're too high in calories. And almost no one thinks about how they prepare them. So what actually happens when you start eating soaked nuts every morning? Is it really better than eating them raw? And what's really changing inside your body when you make this small adjustment? Let's take a closer look. Now here's where things become more interesting. Because the issue most people are dealing with doesn't feel like a problem at all. It just feels like something slightly off. You eat something healthy, like nuts. And afterward, you expect to feel energized, satisfied, maybe even lighter. But instead, you feel something else, a slight heaviness in your stomach, a subtle discomfort that you can't fully explain. Sometimes even a bit of bloating, not enough to worry about, but enough to notice. And over time, you stop questioning it. You just assume that's how your body reacts. But here's what's actually happening. Just because a food is healthy doesn't mean your body is using it efficiently. Nuts are incredibly nutrient-dense. They contain healthy fats, protein, and essential minerals. But they're also dense and naturally harder to break down. So when you eat them in their dry form, your digestive system has to work harder. And for many people, especially those with sensitive digestion, that extra effort shows up as discomfort. Then there's another layer most people never think about. Nuts contain natural compounds called anti-nutrients, like phytic acid. These compounds can bind to minerals such as iron, zinc, and calcium, making them harder for your body to absorb. So even though you're eating something nutritious, your body may not be fully benefiting from it. And this creates a subtle disconnect. You're eating well, but not feeling the full effect of it. Now combine that with something else. When digestion isn't efficient, your energy isn't either. You might feel full, but not satisfied. You might feel nourished, but still craving something later. And that's where the cycle begins. You eat, you don't feel quite right, so you look for something else to compensate. And without realizing it, you're eating more. Not because you need to, but because your body isn't fully supported. The frustrating part, most people try to solve this by changing what they eat. But sometimes the real issue isn't what you're eating. It's how your body is able to process it. And this is exactly where soaking nuts becomes important. Because it doesn't add anything new. It simply removes the barriers that were preventing your body from using what was already there. Now let's take a closer look at what actually begins to happen inside your body when you start eating soaked nuts every morning. Because the change doesn't come from adding something new. It comes from allowing your body to use what's already there more efficiently. Let's start with what soaking actually does. When you place nuts in water and leave them overnight, something simple begins to happen. The outer layer of the nut starts to soften. Water penetrates it, triggering small internal changes. And while this might not seem significant, it directly affects how your body processes those nuts. One of the first things soaking helps with is reducing compounds like phytic acid. These compounds are naturally present in nuts. They're not harmful, but they can bind to important minerals like zinc, iron, and calcium, making them harder for your body to absorb. So when you soak nuts, the level of these compounds decreases. And what does that mean? It means your body now has better access to the nutrients that were already there. And not more nutrients, just better absorption. Then comes digestion. Dry nuts are dense, compact. Your body has to break them down from the outside in. That requires both mechanical effort, chewing, and chemical effort, digestive enzymes. But when nuts are soaked, they become softer, easier to chew, easier to break down. And that changes the entire experience. Instead of your stomach working harder, it works more efficiently. So after a few days of eating soaked nuts, you may start to notice something subtle. Your stomach feels lighter. You don't feel that same heaviness after eating. Your digestion feels smoother, almost effortless. And it's not because your body is doing more. It's because it's doing less work, more effectively. Then there's enzyme activity. Soaking begins a mild activation process inside the nut. It's not full sprouting, but it's enough to make the nut more ready to be digested. Think of it like this. Instead of your body starting from zero, it's starting from a point where some of the work is already done. Now let's talk about energy. Digestion requires energy. When your body has to work harder to break down food, it uses more energy in the process. But when digestion becomes easier, that energy can be used elsewhere. So instead of feeling slightly tired or heavy after eating nuts, you feel more stable. Your energy doesn't drop, it stays consistent. Then there's satiety, the feeling of being satisfied. Nuts already contain healthy fats and protein, which help keep you full. But when they're easier to digest, your body responds to those signals more effectively. So you don't just feel full, you feel satisfied. And that changes something important. You're less likely to snack unnecessarily. You don't feel the same urge to reach for something else. Your body feels complete. Now let's look at your gut. When digestion improves, your gut experiences less stress, less bloating, less discomfort, less irregularity. And over time, this creates a more balanced internal environment. You feel lighter, not just physically, but overall. And finally, there's consistency. When you eat soaked nuts every morning, your body begins to recognize the pattern. It receives something stable, something nutrient-dense, something easy to process, and that sets the tone for the rest of the day. So when you look at everything together, soaking nuts doesn't make them more powerful. It makes them more usable, more accessible, more aligned with how your body actually works. And that small shift is what creates the difference over time. So now that you understand what's happening inside your body, the next step becomes simple. How do you actually eat soaked nuts the right way so your body can benefit from them? Because this is where most people either overcomplicate things or miss the point entirely. Let's go back to something very simple: your evening. Before you go to bed, you take a small handful of raw nuts, almonds, walnuts, or a mix, whatever fits your preference. Nothing fancy, nothing processed, just natural. You place them in a bowl of water. That's it. No special technique, no complicated preparation, and then you leave them. Overnight, something subtle begins to happen. The water softens the outer layer. The structure changes slightly. And by the time morning comes, those nuts are no longer the same as they were. Then comes your morning. Instead of reaching for something quick or processed, you start your day with something simple. You drain the water. If you're using almonds, you can remove the skin if you want. It makes them slightly easier to digest, but it's not required. The important part is that they've been soaked. Then you eat them. Slowly. Not as a snack you rush through, but as something intentional. Now here's where the details matter. Portion. You don't need a large amount. In fact, more is not better. About 5 to 10 almonds or a small mix of nuts is enough. This gives your body what it needs without overwhelming your digestion. Then consistency. This is not something you do once and expect results. It's something you repeat every morning. Because the real benefit doesn't come from a single day. It comes from the pattern your body begins to recognize. There are also a few small adjustments that can make a difference. You make sure the nuts are raw, not roasted or salted. Because once they're processed, they lose some of the natural balance your body benefits from. You drink water alongside them. Since they contain fiber and fats, hydration helps your body process them more smoothly. And you pay attention. Not to dramatic changes, but to small ones. How your stomach feels after eating, how your energy moves throughout the morning, how long you stay satisfied before your next meal. Because this isn't about doing something extreme. It's about doing something simple, consistently. And over time, that small habit becomes part of your routine, not something you force, but something that feels natural, a quiet way of supporting your body every single day. So tonight, before you go to bed, try something simple. Take a small handful of nuts, put them in water, and leave them there. That's it. Then in the morning, instead of rushing into your usual routine, take a moment. Eat them slowly, and just notice how your stomach feels afterward, how your energy moves through the morning, how your body responds over the next few days. Because real change doesn't come from doing something extreme. It comes from doing something small, consistently. If you found this helpful, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more simple, science-based nutrition content. And comment below. Have you ever tried soaked nuts before? Or are you starting tomorrow? Because sometimes, it's not about eating more, it's about making what you already eat work better for your body.